Hey everyone, so a question that I am often asked is this. Sarah, what are your favorite books and what books do you recommend that I read? And to be honest, I am not surprised that people who are interested in building wealth and making money ask this question. Because if you ask the most successful people in business and investing, they'll tell you that they are avid readers. And so it doesn't surprise me then that the new and upcoming entrepreneurs and investors who watch this channel also see the value in reading books or listening to audiobooks. Yep, investors and entrepreneurs see that books are an amazing opportunity to learn directly from those that have already achieved the same financial goals that they themselves wish to achieve. And they can see how reading allows you to expand your understanding of the world, which will expand your mind so that you become better and faster at overcoming problems and challenges. Which is why, when you think about it, it's somewhat ironic then that most people will say that they're too busy to read or listen to audiobooks since, well, by not taking the time to read or listen to books, they are never going to get to learn from successful people how to do things better and more efficiently, and they'll keep making the same mistakes. And so successful entrepreneurs and investors understand that if they don't read, they will waste more money and more time by not doing it. Yep, it turns out that the secrets to financial success and wealth aren't so secret after all. Nope, the real secret is figuring out that the information is already available. The question is, who is going to take the time to read it? And I know this firsthand because, as my longtime subscribers know, I became a millionaire in my 20s, but you know what? I'm not some natural-born financial genius that just magically knew how to do this. Nope, I had to read to learn how one becomes a millionaire, which actually leads me on to my first book on this list, which is this, the infamous Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. If you head on over to Amazon, you'll see that the topic of the book is teaching how the rich use money to make more money fast, unlike school, which teaches you to get a good job and save diligently and get rich slowly. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is all about teaching you the principles behind finding opportunities of ways to invest money to make more money passively without having to use your time. And I'll freely admit any day that this book has over time become a little controversial in some circles, since the author Kiyosaki has been linked to multi-level marketing programs and seminars. And while I myself am not a fan of MLMs, the truth is I do not let my personal opinions of someone's personal life get in the way of appreciating a good book that they wrote. And there is a genuinely good reason why, despite being 25 years or so old, this book is still super high on Amazon's best-selling books. It's because while it's probably not the most comprehensive book on the topic about building passive income, it's remarkable in that it is one of the easiest to understand and most engaging books on this topic. And I know this because, as I said in this video here, when I was a kid, my father bought this book and he loved this book. So much so that one day when I was just 9 years old, my father spotted the follow-up book to this one in a store, Rich Kid, Smart Kid. He knew I was curious about money and wanted to know how adults were able to become rich. And so he figured that this must be the follow-up book, right, to the original, but made for kids. And so he bought me a copy. But here's the thing, right? My dad was wrong. Rich Kid, Smart Kid, it's not a book written for children. Nope, this was the follow-up book for parents that discusses how to talk to your children about money when they're younger to set them up for financial success in the future. But of course, my dad didn't realize that when he bought me the book at 9 years old. And so as I started to read it, I quickly discovered that I understood maybe 5% of what I was reading. Most of it went entirely over my 9-year-old head. But you know what? The 5% that I understood, it was exciting and inspiring. And so every year, what I would do is I would come back and I would read this book. And every year that I did, I would understand a little bit more and a little bit more. And when I did, I would also borrow my dad's copy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad and read it at the same time, which for most people is admittedly the better one for most people to read. And so for me, what sets this book apart is that the writing style of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is so engaging and so easy to understand that even as a child, I could learn from it. And learn from it I did, because you see, here's the thing, right? School, It's great for many reasons, but you have to admit one thing that it's not great at is teaching you how to get rich. I mean, you think about it, right? When you go to school, what do? You sit down and complete tasks assigned to you in exchange for your reward, good grades. And well, doesn't that sound an awful lot like a job? You go to work, complete tasks, and in exchange, you're rewarded with a paycheck. And so, understandably, when all of my school friends became teens and wanted money, most of my teenage friends followed this cycle. And they went and got boring jobs at the supermarket as fast as they could to make money. Whereas me, at age 16, I researched and found a niche market for video game imports and hacking accessories. I invested all of my pocket money I'd saved into setting up a successful online store. I would make up to $100, $200, and sometimes even $300 a day. And if you want to learn more about the video game store that I set up when I was 16, you can watch this video here. But yes, the reason why I was able to come up with this business idea at the age of 16 wasn't because I was born some financial genius. Nope. The reason why was because I was lucky enough to have parents that introduced me to the power of reading. Rich Dad Poor Dad taught me the core principles behind starting a successful business, and so unlike my teenage friends, I was lucky enough to be given an opportunity to read this and learn this at a very young age. Another very impactful book for me that I read as a teenager was this, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is a classic self-improvement book that my father recommended that I read, and I am so glad that I did. Although, I wouldn't recommend that you read the classic edition of this book, since it's been rewritten and turned into a new and improved 30th anniversary edition. So this is the version I'd recommend that you read. If you take a look at all the 7 habits, you'll see that they really center around one central theme, which is taking responsibility for your life and being accountable for your own actions. This is a crucial skill for entrepreneurs and investors to have, and unfortunately, school does a really bad job at teaching us this one as well. Because at school, we're all taught to just follow orders from our teachers, not to think and act independently because we ourselves chose to. And so it's no surprise to me then that most people arrive at adulthood being very good at making excuses and blaming others and looking for other people to make choices for them. But here's the thing, right? If you want to be successful at business or investing, you need to become the boss, not be bossed. And being the boss means taking responsibility and owning all of your choices. And so, since school doesn't really teach us to do this well, there is no shame in spending time educating ourselves on how to do it by reading self-improvement books like this. So next up on our list is another classic book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is another book that my father recommended that I read as a teenager, and I did, and I'm so glad that I chose to. And if you take a look at the description for it on Amazon, you'll see that the topic of this book is that it teaches you basically how to communicate effectively with others so that you can be convincing and get people to agree with you and come to your side, even if that requires that they admit that they were wrong, which no one likes to do. But you see, here's the interesting thing. This book, it was first published in 1936, and yet this book, it still remains relevant even to this day. Why? Well, because this book teaches human psychology, which honestly doesn't change. And so this book is relevant today, and it's going to be relevant next year, and the year after, and the year after, and chances are this book will still be relevant in 3033. And that's because at its core, this book is about timeless human psychology, about how to shift the conversation so that instead of it being about you and what you want, it's instead about what the person you're talking to wants. Yep, let's be real here, people love talking about themselves. As Scientific America pointed out in this article, studies show that people talk about themselves 60% of the time and up to 80% of the time on social media, because as studies also show, each time that we talk about ourselves, our brain gives us a boost of feel-good dopamine. No wonder we love doing it so much. And so when you learn to communicate in an empathetic way that focuses on the person you're talking to, instead of yourself, a lot of things become way easier. It becomes easier to meet and chat with strangers in a networking hall, and it becomes easier to negotiate and broker real estate and business deals. And it also becomes easier to market and sell products. Take this avocado slicer in Cuba. This has been a trendy and popular AliExpress dropshipping item that's made dropshippers a lot of money. However, most people who have tried to dropship this, they've advertised it and marketed it terribly. Most people make their ads all about them and what they have to sell. Hey, look, I have this avocado slicer for sale. It has lots of great features. It has a sharp knife for slicing avocados quickly, and it has a cuber for cubing avocados easily, and it's made from dishwasher-safe plastic. Isn't this great? You should buy my amazing avocado slicer. But you know what? The most effective ads on Facebook for this didn't focus on features. Instead, they were empathetic to the customer. They went, oh, aren't you tired about how slow you find it to slice avocados? And isn't it so annoying about how messy you get when you cube them? Well, guess what? This avocado slicer removes all the frustrations that you have when you are slicing and cubing avocados. And it's even made from dishwasher-safe plastic so that you don't have to clean it by hand. So if you love avocados, buy this avocado slicer so that you can enjoy your favorite fruit without the frustration or the mess. See, effective marketing isn't just about listing your product's great features, it's about, first of all, empathetically identifying with the customer and then noting how your product's great features will help the customers improve their lives. And so to me, while this book has definitely helped me communicate more effectively one-on-one with people, this book was actually invaluable for me because it also helped me learn how to write great advertisements that focused on being empathetic to my customers. Next up is another great book from the same author, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. If you check out the description for it on Amazon, you'll see that the topic of this book is all about how to reduce worry, stress, and fear in your life. And this is crucial for any upcoming investor or entrepreneur for a very important reason that most people don't think of. You see, there was an interesting study done by NASA. They developed a test that would assess how creative a rocket scientist was before they hired them. Because, well, you think about it, when you're building rocket ships, you're not just copying blueprints. Instead, you're inventing brand new technology. And so for NASA, they didn't just want to hire smart rocket ship scientists, they also wanted to hire creative geniuses. And so they invented a test to give to people to assess whether they were creative geniuses or not. And it was so successful that they decided that they would run a study and use this test to see how creativity changes as we get older. So they took a group of 1,600 children aged 4 to 5 and gave them the test. And guess what? 98% of them scored creative genius. So they waited 5 more years after the kids had been in school for some time. And now guess what? Just 30% of those same kids scored creative genius. So they waited 5 more years and did the test on those same kids now in high school. And guess what? Now just 12% of those teenagers scored creative genius. And so now they went and did the test on a bunch of adults. And guess what? Now, just 2% of the adults that they tested scored creative genius. So what the study showed is that, remarkably, almost all of us are born creative geniuses. But as we get older, school and work makes us start to become afraid and worried that we're gonna do something wrong, which is really bad for creativity because not worrying and not being afraid to make mistakes is crucial if you want to come up with creative ideas. And in business and investing, being creative gives you a massive edge and advantage over your competition. So books like this help you to stop worrying and embrace failure and see each failure as a stepping stone to success. And then next up on my list is easily my favorite book of all time, Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. Now, you might be thinking from a title of that this is just a history book, but oh my goodness, it is so much more than that. As the Amazon description for this book says, this book does something else. It connects prior events in history to us today, which helps us understand why we have over time developed systems like capitalism. And it tackles human psychology as well, and it does so in a remarkably neutral way that might make you rethink a lot of the limiting ideas that you have around business, finance, and money. Take money, for example. A lot of people have heard the phrase, money is bad, or money is evil, but if you feel that way, I think you might feel differently after you read this book. because in this book it has an entire chapter dedicated to the history of money, and it had an interesting parable in it about money that changed my perspective on it forever. And that parable was this. Imagine a world where money had not been created or invented. Instead of exchanging money for goods and services, we instead all bartered. Life would be a lot more difficult. For example, let's say that you own an apple farm, and one day, while you're picking apples, your boot tears and you need to get it fixed. You go down to the local township and you find the local shoemaker, and you say to him, "My boot is broken, can you fix it?" And he picks it up and goes, "Yes, there should be an easy fix." And so you go, "Oh, thank goodness, I need my boot fixed so that I can keep picking apples. Here, I have a bucket of apples. They are fresh and delicious." And he looks at the apples and he scowls. "I'm allergic to apples." "Oh, okay, well, what do you want then?" And he goes, "To get rid of something else I'm allergic to. My wife, I want a divorce. Get me a divorce and then I'll fix your boot." So then you'd have to go next door to the local lawyer. "Excuse me, miss, I'd like to buy one divorce paper, please." "Oh, okay, what's your name?" "Oh, no, not for me. I'm buying it for the shoemaker. I have an apple farm. I broke my boot, but he didn't want any apples. But he said he wanted a divorce paper instead. Can I exchange some apples for a divorce for the shoemaker?" And she scowls and goes, "Ugh, I don't really want any apples, but I do want the plumbing fixed on my kitchen sink. The plumber really likes apples. Maybe go talk to him." And so now you trot off to the plumber. "Excuse me, sir," you ask. "I have a bucket of apples. Can I give them to you in exchange for fixing a broken kitchen sink?" "Oh," he exclaims, "yes, I love apples. Where is your house?" "Oh no, sir, it isn't for me. It is for the lawyer down the road. She said in exchange for her kitchen sink fixed that she would write up a divorce paper for the shoemaker, who would then fix my boot so that I can keep picking apples." And so now, just to get your boot fixed, you've had to go through a four-way exchange of goods and services. But now, thanks to money, the apple farmer can now just exchange his apples for one single currency, money, and then use that to fix his boots. Money isn't bad or evil. Instead, money's transformed our lives for the better, thanks to the invention of money. The apple farmer no longer has to do a time-wasting and frustrating barter chain to fix his boots, and he can instead focus entirely on doing the thing he loves, which is growing apples. This book genuinely challenged a lot of my limiting beliefs I had around money and business, and I highly, highly recommend it for all new entrepreneurs and investors. So then, what books do you suggest that I and others read? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe and click that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my videos about making money online. And if you'd like to learn more about how I became a millionaire in my 20s and the pathway that I followed to get there, you should be sure to watch my video, The Real Reason Why I Became a Millionaire in My 20s. So go ahead, watch my next video, and I'll see you over there.